My name is Taya, and welcome to another edition of Peter Abigail Foundation's Let's Talk series. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Today's webinar titled Pathway to Protection, Understanding Asylum, SIJS and Security and Securing Your Green Card Status will be delivered by Mr. Charles M. Cooper, Jr. He's an attorney and partner at Atlantic Partner Law Group. He will be touching on the current immigration issues, among others. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box for our guest speaker to answer at the end of his presentations. Thank you. Charles M. Cooper Jr. is PQ dedicated public servant and a fearless advocate for justice. He's a counselor. Cooper is a seasoned attorney. In addition to his profession and advocacy work, Counselor Cooper has cultivated a passion for education and mentorship. As an adjunct professor at the Fifth State University of New York, he has inspired future leaders by teaching microeconomics and encouraging data-driven approaches to solving real-world problems. Counselor Cooper's diverse academic background reflects the, the breadth of his expertise. He holds a Doctor of Law, JD, from the City University of New York School of Law, an MBA in Finance and Strategy from Cornell University, and a BS in Electrical Engineering from the University of Rhode Island. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to take this time to thank the foundation and all the hard work because this is not easy, especially in this time in which we are constantly looking at immigration policies and trying to determine if there is relief. But as mentioned earlier today, I will be focusing on, and we will be delving into the intricate and evolving landscape of U.S. immigration, focusing on three pivotal components: asylum, special immigrant juvenile status. Both avenues offer protection to vulnerable population, yet they operate within a complex legal framework and are influenced by shifting political climate. We will also discuss green card permanent residence, know your rights and responsibility as a green card holder, which is very important in securing it. So understanding asylum. Asylum is as it serves as a sanctuary for individuals fleeing persecution based on race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group or political opinion. To qualify, typically, applicants must demonstrate a well-founded fear of persecution in their home countries. Recent development in asylum policy, the asylum landscape has experienced significant changes in recent years. We have a decrease in approval rates as of October 2024. The approval is only about around 36%, which is a stark decline from previously where it was around 50%. We also have family detention policies. The current administration has reinstated the detention of immigrant families, a practice that was previously halted. And as a lot of these policies raise a concern about the well-being of children in detention facilities, etc. One of the key things that a lot of folks are not aware of, especially a lot of young folks, is special immigrant juvenile status, which for short is called SIJS. It's a classification designated for non-citizen minors in the U.S. who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected by a parent. So if you're under 21, and you've been abused, abandoned, or neglected by at least one of your parents, you could qualify for SIJS. It provides a pathway to a lawful permanent residency, a green card. To qualify for SIJS, the individual must be under 21 years of age and unmarried. Yeah, I had a client come into my office, and he was under 21, but he just got married a week ago. All the qualification was there, but he married a week ago, and unfortunately, I had to tell him that he does not qualify for SIJ. And we also have the opposite, in which folks learn about it a month after their birthday. They've just turned 21. And if they received that information about a month or so ago, they've qualified for SIJ, which provides a pathway to lawful permanent residency. There's other criteria to SIJ. As I mentioned, under 21 years old, unmarried. You must be declared a dependent by U.S. juvenile court. And there's other criteria to it, but I usually say the main crux of it that folks need to make sure that they initially qualify for is the one, abuse, neglect, abandoned by at least one of your parents. Two, be under 21 and unmarried. If you need additional information on that, of course, we can discuss it briefly later, but you can always reach out to my office. As I mentioned, there's challenges even facing SIJ. And the challenges is that a lot of kids, a lot of families don't know it exists. And the child can be 2 years old, 3, 5, 7, 18. You can qualify for SIJ. Because too often we folks that meet the other criteria, but they say, oh, but my child is 7 years old. Yes, they still qualify, even if they're 7 years old. There's the impact on policy changes that have been profound. Recent policy changes have shifted and have had a profound implication. One of it is the revocation of legal protection. And currently, the administration is planning to revoke legal protection, in which they have moved forward with respect to TPS. As you all know, when you typically receive TPS, you usually receive a work permit, a temporary deportation protection, but with it being revoked, it's causing a lot of havoc. Another is court backlog. The immigration courts are experiencing unprecedented backlogs. And what I usually tell folks is that if one of the relief you qualify for, either you came here without status, or you had a status, or your status expired, or you're looking to change your status, whether from parole to a permanent residency, a green card, or from a green card to a U.S. citizen, act now. Not later, act now. Because there's such a backlog, and you don't want to be stuck so far back before your case is actually heard. As I mentioned earlier, even with asylum, there's more challenges with asylum because of some of the barriers that are put in place. such as circumvention of lawful pathways, which can be discussed later. But I think one of the areas now we'd like to focus on is just to know your rights and responsibility as a green card holder. I think that's very, very important. Sometimes we fail to realize that, yes, we have permanent residency, but there's certain things that could get us into trouble. And understanding your rights and responsibility as a green card holder, and how you can avoid losing your lawful permanent resident status is very important. A green card permanent resident status, as you all know, allow you to live and work in the U.S. indefinitely. However, while a green card gives you many of the same rights as a U.S. citizen, it also comes with obligations. And failing to meet these responsibility or violation, certain laws can lead to the loss of your status. And today we will cover some of them. So let's begin. As a green card holder, you are granted several rights, including one, some of them are the right to live and work in the U.S., protection under U.S. laws, to travel abroad and return to the U.S., eligibility for social benefits, education benefits, etc. The other end of that stick is your responsibility as a green card holder, which one, and these are full certain obligations. Obey all U.S. laws, not only federal, not only state, but local laws also. And certain criminal offenses like drug-related crimes or fraud can lead to deportation. Also, a lot of folks don't pay attention to this. File your taxes, please. You know, it seems simple, but file your taxes and make sure your taxes is filed properly. We have a lot of people, some of them are not qualified to file taxes, and they may file your taxes incorrect, and that could get you into trouble. And part of filing your taxes is reporting your worldwide income to the IRS and filing your annual tax return. I've seen it sometimes in which, where we have someone in the neighborhood that, can get us a very big return. And we use them to file taxes, and they may be doing certain things that are scrupulous. And you can find yourself in deep hot water for that. In addition, register for the selected service. This is typically for male ages 18 to 25. They must register for selected service. And what is that? It's basically a database used in case of a future military draft. And a lot of young folks, sometimes they forget, but you have to register for selected services. The other stuff is carry your green card at all times or a copy of it as just a proof of status, especially in this climate that we're in. If you don't feel comfortable carrying the actual one, just keep a copy in your wallet or purse or whatever you use to carry these things, but it's very important. And the one thing I would want to point out, because I see it often, I know a lot of people who have lost their green card because they stayed out the U.S. for an extended period of time. They had an extended trip abroad, and they stay there and they stay there, and when it was ready to return, they said, "Oh, you've abandoned your residency." Remember, residency means you're a resident. If you're spending so much time out the U.S. Without cause, then there's always the argument that, well, is the U.S. really your residence anymore? Have you abandoned the U.S. as your resident? So that's something to take into consideration. And another thing that sometimes people don't consider is there's folks that go there and they stay there for an extended period of time, but there's folks that come here for a month, spend 2 months in back home. Come here for a month, spend 3 months back home. And they say, oh, well, it's not a long time. No. A lot of times to look at the aggregate amount of time within the year are you spending in the US versus overseas? Is this cause or do you really just live overseas? So um, those are things that I wanted to make sure to bring up this in this session. At this time, I will take questions.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. You mentioned some few things, and I would like you to elaborate a little bit, especially, let's start from green card holders. Let's start from people that are already legalized in this country. You said that if they spend a specific time outside the soil of the US, they could be in trouble when they're coming back. Can you be a little bit specific? How long? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? Is it 2 years or 3 years? Just for us to be sure. Oh, it's not, it's a little bit vague. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So it varies, and I will go into as much as I can because it's not a bright line, right? So I'll start by saying that as a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident of the U.S., spending extended period outside of the country can affect your immigration status, plain blank, and even result in the loss of your green card. And this this impact often depends on the length of time you are abroad and whether you maintain strong ties to the U.S. So it's a lot of other consideration also that goes along with it. It's just not one thing. For example, a short trip, less than 6 months. If you stay outside for less than 6 months or 180 days, your status as a permanent resident is generally not affected. Upon return, you present a valid green card, and you may be asked routine questions by the U.S. And Border Protection officer about your trip. But it is generally, your permanent resident is generally not affected. Now, trips longer than 6 months, but less than 1 year. If you stay outside the U.S. for more than 6 months, but less than 1 year, you may face additional scrutiny upon re-entry, because CBP may question whether you abandoned your U.S. resident, considering factors such as strong ties to the U.S. Right? And what does that mean? Strong ties to the U.S. That means family. It's your family. You have family in the U.S. Are you employment? Is the employment based in the U.S.? Things like property. Do you have property in the U.S.? Taxes. Are you doing your taxes in the U.S.? Etc. These are some of the factors they'll consider, and many more. They all will also consider the reason for your extended stay abroad. Whether you continue to file your U.S. taxes as a resident. and CBP officer can challenge your re-entry, but you still have the right to return without needing a re-entry permit. But you need to be aware of it because this is an area that oftentimes I see a lot of. You know, this area where it's like, okay, well, you know, I went to Ghana or went to Nigeria or Ethiopia, you know, and I stayed there and I had family matters over there, and I stayed there for, you know, 6, 7, 8 months. You know, that's when the others additional factors regarding, are you really still connected to the US? Or are you just coming here maybe once a year to do your medical? Um, the the other options is trips for 1 year or more. And for this year, you're at risk. I'll be honest, you're at risk of abandonment. You know, plain blank. If you stay outside the US for 1 year or more without a re-entry permit, you could be presumed to have abandoned your permanent resident. A green card is not sufficient for re-entry, may not be sufficient for re-entry after 1 year. You may be denied entry and referred to removal proceedings. I know this can be a tough topic to talk about, but that's the truth. To return, you may need to apply for a returning resident visa at a U.S. consulate, demonstrating that your prolonged absence was beyond your control. You know, like I mentioned before, you know, maybe family issues, maybe it was medical emergencies, and many other. And that's why from the very beginning, one of the things I focused on was how do you protect your green card while traveling? Okay. And some of my tips I would like to give is, listen, apply for a re-entry permit. If you know you will be outside the US for more than a year, apply for a re-entry permit before leaving. Generally, it is valid for up to 2 years and allows you to re-enter without being presumed to have abandoned your residency. Okay. The other tip that I would also provide is maintain ties to the US, right? Keep your US address. You know, don't just sell your house in the US, go back to Africa, and then come back and say, oh, you know, I still have ties, you know. They look at it, but you don't even have a US address. Is your ties valid? You know, file your US tax return as a resident. Maintain a US bank account, driver's license, and other documentation. And avoid action that suggests that you are permanently relocating abroad. Also, I would say that, you know, returning resident, if you stay abroad for more than 1 year without a re-entry permit, apply for a returning resident visa at the U.S. consulate. And you must prove that, you know, your prolonged absence, of course, was involuntary and beyond your control. So these are some of the tips that I can give you.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody that have questions to ask, please indicate by raising up your hands, so that's okay. It's John.
Good afternoon, sir. You mentioned something about registering for service for young folks. When should I do that, and where can you do that?
You could do that online. If I'm not mistaken, I think you're talking about what was the registering for young folks that are between the age of 18 and 18 and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 25, but the age might have moved up. So don't quote me on that the exact. But you typically, if the young person has applied for FAFSA, financial aid, somewhere there, they typically ask if they've applied for, if they've registered. And the answer is usually yes, or they want to be registered. But you can do it online, and if I have a time, I may be able to send a link. And you can just go ahead and click the link and take it from there.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you, Listen. That's good.
Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I thank you for your time. I have some questions, but I think I'll ask them based on what we're talking about. So you had mentioned something about not staying outside United States for too long as a green card holder. And then I think you also mentioned something about how frequent you go. Does that also matters? Like if someone were to travel to Nigeria, if I travel to Nigeria like 6, 7 times a year, even though the trip are probably like 2 weeks every time I go, does that also factor into me not being looked at as to why I go home frequently?
Well, there's a lot of things to consider. Okay, yeah, you have to consider the aggregate amount of time. Are you staying 1 week or are you staying 1 month? And does the 1 month amount to 6, 7 months in an aggregate? If it does, then it's very similar to, if you just stay there, if you left once and you stay there 6, 7 months.
Mm,
So that's something to look at. And another is, why? Okay, obviously, if you're generally, if you're going for 1 week, 2 weeks, you're not going to live there. You may go there to visit family, friends, or for business purposes. So there's other factors that goes into that. And if you're going back and forth, you're obviously hopefully you're maintaining your residence in the US also. Because what they're really trying to make sure is that folks are not abusing the system, and they try to, especially now, I tell folks, if you may have done certain things in the past and been able to, it wasn't red flag, but now there's a greater scrutiny on everything. So if you know that, well, I was staying out of the country for 6, 7 months at a time, don't be surprised if you receive something in the mail or the next time you come in, the officer is looking and say, well, you've left X amount of time, you spent X amount of time out the country, and ask you additional questions.
okay, thank you. And then you also mentioned tax. I also have another question here. It says, give me 1 second. Okay, so the person is asking this question. They've been in the state for 10 years, about 9 years or 8 years. Let me see. Yeah, and have a green card and wants to go ahead and apply for citizenship, but this individual is owing taxes. So will that impact them applying for their citizenship, or how should they go about it?
Well, part of all these application, look at your moral character,
Mm,
right? So you got to ask yourself, does this speak positive to my character or it doesn't? And we all, some of us have had challenges in which we may owe a debt, so forth. Do you have an agreement to pay down the debt, or is it something you're just avoiding? On the other side of your mind, you put it to the back, you say, okay, well, you know, when I become a millionaire, you know, I'll pay it. You understand? So they're looking at your moral character, your character, you know, are you taking responsibility of it? Do you have an agreement in place? Yeah, because at the interview, if the question comes up, you want to be able to say, yes, you know, I do owe the IRS X amount. You know, I've consulted with them, with my tax attorney, and we have a payment plan, and we're working towards paying the balance off. Versus, yes, you know, I owe X amount of money and I haven't made any type of payment, or I haven't even started a process of putting together a plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And there are some questions we have in the chat. This person, and we have some questions in this chat about if I apply for asylum and I still end up getting a green card through marriage, can I travel to my home country as a green card holder?
Okay. What's the question? I
That's
think I know where they're getting, but what's the question?
The question is, okay, they have a green card. The person applied for asylum. Now they have a green card through marriage. Can they travel to their home country with a green card, like leaving here to go to Nigeria?
Okay, so let's look at the what asylum. Okay, asylum itself. One of the core principle of it is that you fear persecution. You fear persecution, future persecution. And now I can't get into details of this because this is a legal question and this is not legal advice, you know,
Okay.
and nobody here, I don't represent anyone here, and we don't have any legal obligations, etc. I should say that. I should have said that from the very beginning. But this question is, it's really, it depends question. It depends whether when you file for asylum, it depends whether when you file for asylum, you stated that there was a harm there, and the harm now suddenly have disappeared, and you're going back, right? So it really depends, and I would recommend that the person reach out to me on a one-on-one basis. But I would just like to caution them that this could be looked upon as fraud, especially if you claim that you can't go back and you file an asylum application. And that force that you fear of being persecuted, it's still there. But now you got your green card through marriage, and suddenly you can go there.
Mm.
But
Thank you.
I recommend that they reach out to an attorney.
I know we're still talking about the green card, but there's another question here. The person says, as a US citizen, do you go to Nigeria with USA passport or both Nigeria and USA passport? Does one need a USA visa? No, on the USA traveling passport. The person probably meant on the Nigerian passport.
I'm
Right?
confused. What are they asking?
So the person is asking that when going to Nigeria, do they need to, can they, because there's so much going on about whether to, as a citizen, to go with your Nigerian dual citizenship, to go with your US passport or not. So this person is asking,
Okay,
the-
so you're asking which passport?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say you should use your U.S. passport to leave
Okay.
and return to the U.S. U.S. law requires U.S. citizen to use that U.S. passport when entering and exiting to U.S. So that's the law. I know in the past we've gotten accustomed to as Africans to doing all type of stuff. But I will appeal that you follow the law.
Thank you, sir. Can we delve a little bit on people that are not even legal yet now, that are really struggling, because like we have so many people that are not legal, asylum people, the people that came in with visa alone, and we know that overstaying your visa is a problem. But people with, then do we call them illegal immigrants, or what do we call them? So what are the steps they could do with the current situation going on now to be able to legalize themselves in this country, sir?
Yeah. I think there's several, as you mentioned, if they came here without a status, I would always say, there's many different options. Okay, so there's options. There's an asylum option that's available if you fear prosecution in your country. I mentioned there's a SIJS option, special immigrant juvenile status for kids that are under 21 years of age that were abused, neglected, or abandoned by at least one of their parents. But there's also a lot of times people are trafficked into the U.S. and there is a visa for that also. If you was trafficked into the U.S. And forced to work, there's a visa for that. If you're currently working with an employer that is mistreating you, there's a visa for that. There's a lot of different visa options that are available.
Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Cooper. Thank you for giving us this vital information, and thank you for giving us your service at any time we need it. We can easily contact you for further information or for help.
And also, I just want to thank you, your team, and the foundation. This is great work that you all are doing. It's not easy, and I know you realize it, but I think the magnitude you may not. But so many people need exactly what you're doing right now, and I'm glad that this message will go out to them. So thank you, and as I've said earlier, I'm always available, and looking forward to future discussions.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Charles Cooper, really appreciate your time today. And we will make available your information to our community. And we thank everyone that's able to attend today. If you have any further question, you can reach out to Peter Abigail Foundation, submit your questions. And if you need any other type of help that we can provide, we'll surely be available to be of help. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.